Let's see. But yeah. Maybe bring it that way.
Are you live on that?
Yeah.
Or Marquise?
This is live. I think this one's live too. I'm trying to figure out a way where it can actually. That one is live. We're live on the Heart Center one, but it's just not. It's I can't type myself on there for some reason. But anyway, let's see. I wonder, could I?
We were saying at the beginning, that kind of the beginning of this, I had we're big into Muji right now. Muji has a way to give you the experience that I was looking for, because it's not your truth and it's not your experience. I intellectualize a lot of things of kind of understanding in my intellect about how things should or shouldn't be when you're raising your quality of consciousness, or how they could be, or how other people's experiences are, but without having that experience myself. It's just conjecture, it's just in your intellect. And Muji has these really amazing guided meditations that walk you into that experience yourself.
It talks about starting at the end so that you can see.
Starting at the end, and it's taken me a couple days of understanding these and switching some very subtle shifts in my awareness. And he has these guided meditations that when you walk into it, you experience the thing that you're looking for. And that in itself has been such a helpful thing for me, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for this experience, but then I was also looking for, is this experience, is this right or not? And I remember when I first got into meditation, one of my big questions when I met Tom Campbell was, I didn't even know if I was meditating correctly. Because you read about meditation.
A lot of people ask that question.
Yeah, it's a very common question. You read about meditation, you're doing it, but if you're questioning if you are doing it correctly, it doesn't seem to have the same effect. The whole questioning, the whole judging the experience really reduces.
It distracts you in your subconscious when you're doing it. It's unnecessary.
Yes.
It's adding noise to what you're trying to do.
Yes. So I probably meditated for a year, never really knowing if I was doing it correctly. And I still don't think I was doing it correctly until recently, because I had my intellect engaged so much. But at least I got to the point of understanding, like, this is what it should be. Because that's the other point, I'm speaking with the Muji thing, you can get to the point of having the experience, but not knowing that you're having the experience, and then questioning whether that experience is the experience or not. And in that questioning, it invalidates kind of everything. So for me, Muji has been such a great teacher, and really is exactly what I was looking for. We were talking too about when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and that's been Muji for me, because even when I first got turned on to him 3 years ago, his teachings would scramble my brain. There was so much of this duality, non-duality, personhood, isness, there's lingo that now I understand what he means. But before, it would just be so difficult for me me to comprehend. So
He talks about like the mind is trying to do things to distract you because there's this force in us that is not trying. It's trying to make sure that we don't get it. And
yes,
people are asking questions why they fall asleep in meditation, why their brain scrambles. These are common things that happen to people because the mind, or we have this force that is not looking to ascend or grow
yes.
because the mind can become redundant once it's exposed as it's.
This is a great point because, right, not only on top of it, do you not know if you're experiencing the correct things? On top of this, your mind is telling you you are not. Or your mind is telling you 100 different things tell you to not have this experience. Your mind is not your friend. And that was another huge thing because I think most people have an idea of ego as the negative things about their life. If you say somebody's like egotistical,
Right.
that's what most people have the idea of ego
The
is.
same
Oh,
ego is synonymous with pride.
yeah, you have this
Exactly.
weird idea that egotistical equals ego, and if I am not egotistical, then I do not have an ego.
Right, I don't have anything to worry about.
I don't have anything to worry about.
That is not the case.
That's not the case at all. Quite the opposite. Your ego is who you associate yourself with. I associate myself with Mark. That is my ego. And so that is the thing that's trying to hold on. That is your mind. That is your mind from all of your history of living this life. And that shit wants to hold on. Because when you start moving yourself into more ego death scenario, that part of you that was you for a long time doesn't want to go quiet, and it's going to fight back. So Muji has, one, explained to me where I need to be, but also the fact that he's shown me that this whole ego is now me, and that that mind is going to fight back, and that was a huge thing too, because you think you are your mind, and so when your mind is telling you these things, it's distracting you from where you go. So it's been a real. I mean, I've probably gone heavy on the Muji for the last month. 6 weeks, month, and the last 2 weeks, super heavy, where I have pretty much put myself in solitary Muji confinement.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I can't think of, there's probably people out there, or there's techniques out there, or there's resources out there to get an experience, but the way he does it to allow you to experience yourself or what you're thinking you're looking for, to have this actual experience, it makes everything like you feel that it solidifies what you're doing in a way, I guess. Like it allows you to really springboard all your attempts, all of our attempts. And
Well, it gives you a reference.
Yeah.
Really, it's because even when I talk about when you have an awakening experience, when I first had my awakening, I didn't know what an awakening was, so I didn't have any context for what I was actually experiencing. I just had experienced something. I knew it was different, but I didn't know any vocabulary surrounding it. I didn't have any box to put it in. And so when you're talking about, the I am state or all these concepts, these intellectual concepts that are being presented, if you don't have any experience of them, they don't land.
and even trying to explain to somebody how to have an experience is difficult, whether there's like guided meditations and just being like you was describing about being and meditating for a long time. But if you're walked into a way, like you mentioned, his ability, maybe other people can do it too, to distract you, to leave your mind outside or leave your mind away, to really sit there.
I don't even think it's a distraction thing. It's just you're so focused on getting to, he's just literally guiding you step by step, down this path. And I think the reason we're so distracted when we're trying to do it ourselves is because we don't know the way. So we're just like going whatever, you know what I mean? We're all over. He's saying, okay, just go. This is the way to go. Like go right down this stair step, like these stairs here, and you're going to get to this door. When you open that door, you're going to be at the place you're trying to get to. As opposed to like when we're trying to do it ourselves, we just are searching blindly. We're like, okay, I want to get there. I don't know the way, but I'm gonna walk. Yeah, which is important to go walk. It's important to do it, but like he's guiding you. Like go this way, take 5 steps this way, make a left here, and you're there. And like I think that's the difference between like what we've been doing before and like these meditations. They're like very different. It's not just a meditation that's going to quiet your mind. It's not just a meditation for you to focus or whatever. He's literally giving you the experience of oneness or I am or isness, as he says, or whatever you want to call it. But it's just having an experience. The value of that is like exponentially more than the conceptualizing of the experience.
That's spot on. That's exactly what it is.
It's fucking amazing to be able to have somebody walk you directly to it and just like get it. And then you can go try to like get back into reading your books and you know what I mean? But now you have this like reference. So when you're reading
it settles everything too. You're just like, okay, now I can relax and do whatever I'm doing because I know that this is the self and everything else is just something to help.
Yeah, I mean the reference point was huge because now that I had that reference point out of meditation, I would come, even till today, I would come out and still be experiencing not what I had experienced in this meditation. So then I had to then figure out what I needed to shift in my own perception to get back to this because I couldn't be listening to Muji all the time as much as I would like to. It was like smoking weed, man. I could smoke weed all the time to get into this. It's a similar state, maybe. So then I shifted the awareness, and what the shift was getting rid of the whole idea of the ego, the whole idea of the personhood,
identity in general.
The whole identity in general, starting on this ego death path of this is what it looks like, this is how you get there, this is what it is, and then me having to do the work itself, and me still doing the work, but it comes easier and easier, and that was the shift. It was anything I was holding on to as myself, get that shit out the fucking window, man. That's because that shit is what causes anything you hold on to as personhood is what is going to cause you suffering.
And it's interesting, I think, what a lot of other schools of thought is what they're teaching you is to shift from one identity to this other identity. So they're saying this identity is better than this other identity. So you used to think of yourself as Mark, but now you should think of yourself as this. And I think what Moody's offering is the step beyond that part. It's like, okay, cool. You thinking of yourself as a soul is better than you thinking of yourself as a body. But now let's get beyond that. Let's get beyond you calling yourself anything. You know what I mean? Like, because that's still an identity. You know what I mean? If you're calling yourself a God, or if you're calling yourself enlightened, or if you're calling yourself I am energy, or whatever it is you're calling yourself, you still have an identity. And so there's a place beyond that where you don't even think about who you are anymore. It's not even something that you contemplate. You just are who you are, because that's the reality. The reality is there was never a point where you weren't that thing. Yeah. You just didn't understand that you were. So that you're getting beyond this part where you're trying to like wrap your head around that to just being that again. You know what I mean? So like that's where we're going. It's just back being that thing, as opposed to thinking that we are that thing.
We used to think that we were the observer or the witness.
Right.
And when I first got into meditation, I was big on the term, I am not my thoughts, I am the observer of my thoughts.
And that's an important step.
That's an important step. That's a huge step. But really, that is just a thought as well.
Right.
We're actually the observer of that whole thing, and you start to enter a place where there aren't words for these experiences, and they become very difficult to talk about. And this is one of the reasons that when you're getting into some spirituality and you're reading about things that it becomes very nebulous because these things are not well defined. The thing that we're trying to describe has no word,
Right.
name to it in English.
We're getting closer to God,
Yeah.
and God is inexplicable.
Yeah.
Like the true divine things are not explainable and not describable. It's just not. It doesn't work in human language. If
Yeah.
human language falls short, it's just not sufficient to put it in words. And so when we get further along to these states, it's going to be harder and harder to intellectualize what's happening.
Yeah.
Which is cool. What that means is if your entire thing is explaining it, then you're going to be in trouble. You know what I mean?
If you're saying that, then that means it's because you're really good at explaining.
Yeah, that's why the shift goes from telling you about it to just showing.
Yeah, that's
Right.
where it comes in handy to showing you this is a peek at it, what's there really. It's always been there,
Right.
but this is experientially what it is. So go be with that, go marinate with that, and gradually it'll strengthen and go into contemplation about. You guys are bringing up all the things about Muji. I mean, his backbone is the self-inquiry. It's asking. We say I, me, millions of times in our life. Have we ever investigated who's the I we're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about these things of like frustration or good and bad times, who is the one that appears to be either suffering or having a bad time? If we really search and look for that, it's not. There's no form to the person that's suffering.
The person that's suffering is the ego.
Right. But it's formless if you go, but you have to contemplate it enough to.
Well, that's what I mean. The answer to that question, who's suffering, is your vessel. Adam is suffering, but you're not Adam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The idea you have about yourself, and when Mark was talking about the mind only has power because it can challenge the idea you have about yourself. If you invest or you give importance to the idea of who you think you are, then the mind can challenge that. But the mind can never challenge your true self. It can't be touched. But to just keep asking and contemplating the question when it comes up, because it's going to come up, this appearance of suffering and all these things that are happening. But who is it happening to? That's contemplated over and over and over again. It gets exposed as just an idea of yourself.
Yeah, the suffering, you realize that the suffering is all surface level.
Right.
Like all of that stuff is not. There's no depth to it.
It comes and goes. It only stays because you give importance to you.
Yeah, we personalize it.
Yeah.
And so like what I realized he's talking about is depersonalization. Like you don't associate with anything.
It's impersonal.
Yeah, it's not you. It's not yours. You know what I mean?
It's very hard. It's very hard at first. It's so hard.
Which is why that's why it's like you gotta walk. That's why you can't skip ahead. Like you literally have to go from like being fully in your ego, this state where you are your body and you identify with the personality and all this stuff, going from that to going to I am the observer, I'm not the thing, I'm watching the thing, and then getting beyond that to the point where you're not any of that stuff anymore. You don't even try to identify yourself. You're just me, right? You have to walk your way through all that stuff to get to that nothingness. Because if I just told you just you're nothing and you're in ego state, you're not gonna. That's just not gonna compute. Like you know what I mean?
You'd be like, okay, like
It's gonna feel like an attack. Like your ego's gonna be like you're fucking coming after me.
It did feel like when you first said that before. It's not that it did feel like an attack. But I know that you never
subconsciously. It's not even like it's not even. You don't even feel like it's malicious. You know what I mean? It's just that your ego is reflexively like fuck that. Like he's trying to like destroy it. And I don't think the ego is doing it out of like some like. I don't think the ego is trying to save itself for itself, right? I think the ego is trying to save itself because it's trying to be of service to you still. It still feels like you need, right? And so it's not like self-preservation. It's trying to save itself for you because it's still for the ego is for you,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like it's not having fun. It's not a person in your body that you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We create this idea that the ego is like this being. And it's fucking enjoying its existence, and you're trying to ruin it, like party or whatever. I don't think that's like what the ego only exists because we created it for us.
So that we can transcend it. We talk about death,
Right.
yes, but to transcend is really
Right,
the
to
key.
transcend it. Like,
It's not to kill it like it was necessary and embraced, but to transcend it is the real, so that you're not afraid of it. It's just you're able to transcend.
you just don't need it
You
anymore.
don't have use for it because it can't.
You know what I mean? All this shit is doing is because it thinks you need that. You know what I mean? It thinks you're not gonna be safe without it. Like, it's like you fucking need me. Like, you're trying to fuck me up, but you still need me. And so it's trying to fucking hold on frantically, but you know what I mean? But he doesn't realize we're moving into a state where we don't need that. And so we just gently let it go. You know, we don't have to beat it up. You know what I mean? Like,
I never pissed at it or something.
yeah, no, it is what it is, man. I don't even have to do anything about my ego. I just gotta watch that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's
sorry. You know what I mean?
that's an important point. Is that you don't get rid of the ego by focusing on the ego.
Yeah.
What I did was just shift my attention onto this higher state of consciousness, this pure consciousness, this isness, as Muji, and making that shift and putting my conscious attention onto this when that egoic chatter or the mind chatter comes up, whereas it used to register and I used to think about it, it just comes and goes without a thought. I notice it on some level that it's there, but because I'm giving it no energy, the thing is just slowly starving itself. So it's not even that, hey, we gotta work on the ego to get rid of it.
Comes and goes.
It's for me was a surrendering of everything, and then shifting my surrender and trust were big. Surrendering everything, trusting in this higher power, and then shifting my conscious attention away from the ego, which was giving it energy, keeping it around, shifting that focus to this higher state of awareness, and then that ego just slowly starts itself.
Yeah, it fades out. Like,
Fades out.
It's ending up in a place where you don't need. You just move your feet. You're walking away from it. You know what I mean? You're progressing. So it's you're going the place you're progressing to, the place where you don't need it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But to get in the habit of, there's many metaphors or ways to put it, but being in the sky with clouds and thoughts just passing by. Every single dot comes and goes. It's just if you give it importance, if you personalize it, then it becomes something. But it does, every single thing will pass because it's all change. It comes and goes. But something is there, observing, something that is not coming and going.
Right.
So getting in tune with that, discovering that, investigating that, but knowing that every single thought is coming and going. But just to know that, it just helps you see more clearly or make some progress.
Right. And then my thing is like, even being worried about the thing that doesn't come and go is going to distract you.
Getting fixated on that.
Right, because it's still an identity. You know what I mean? You're still thinking of it as a thing. Like, you know what I mean?
It's not separation. It's not separation.
Right. It's just you just are that thing. You know what I mean?
Because you're putting attention and focus onto it, it becomes a battle.
It's like this. Now it's this thing to try to become when you say that there's a thing that doesn't change, it almost makes you try to become the thing that doesn't change. When the truth is, you just are the thing. You know what I mean? You just need to
it's veiled by what you're not, like the ego. It's you are that.
Right, and it's even thoughts of what you are. Like, you eventually get to a place where you stop trying to figure out what you are and you just start being what you are. And I think that's what Muji is like pushing people towards.
Because what you're looking for is where you're looking from.
Right, you're just trying to get back to existing consciously. You're not trying to become anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're just trying to have a shift in your consciousness to where, rather than you looking at the thing that doesn't change, even if you're looking at yourself, you're just being yourself. And then when that thing doesn't contemplate, you know what I mean?
I had a similar experience in a way with quitting drugs. I used to focus on quitting smoking weed and battling smoking weed, then I would smoke, then I would not smoke for a couple of days, and I realized like drugs are the problem or symptom of the problem. I shifted my focus onto what the root cause. In this case too, it's the root. What is the root of who am I? It's not the ego. It's higher state of consciousness. You shift your attention onto that root, and the rest of the thing just dies from lack of.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no point where I decided that today is going to be the day I quit smoking weed. When all of a sudden I put my attention on this one thing, it just didn't occur to me.
It went away.
It fell away. It
Falls away. Same thing. You don't. That, for me, it was battling the ego. Even not paying attention at some level, it was in me, and then it hooks in me. And I switched that attention away to the root, and it just falls away. So fast, so much more fast than the
You're
daily.
taking painkillers instead of.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like an instant thing. Like you switch that attention, you switch the focus to the root of anything, and the rest of things just kind of fall away.
Yeah, whenever I would talk to people about habits, they would come to me and say, I have this bad habit, I want to get rid of this bad habit or whatever, and I would always tell them, like, you just set your intention, you make it known to the universe, and then you just get back to evolving. Like, you don't fixate on getting rid of the bad habit. Like, you just become a fucking better person. Just focus on your personal growth, and that thing falls off by itself.
Exactly.
Once you make it known to the universe, this is what I desire to have happen, the universe will facilitate that shit. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you just set your intention and say, okay, this is what I want to have happen. I want to become this thing. I want to remember who I am, and I want to evolve, yada, yada, yada. Cool. And then you just get back to doing the work. And that work is not destroying who you were. You know what I mean? Like, it's becoming who you want to be. And then eventually just realizing who you are.
Realizing who you are.
That's the progression. It's like, first you're trying to become something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in the beginning, you're like, okay, I'm this type of person. I want to become that type of person. So that's what you're walking towards. And then eventually you get to that type of person and you realize, like, oh, I just am this person. Like, there's nothing for me to become. It's just remembering that I am. And I think that's why, like, Yogananda called it self-realization. He doesn't say it, call it, like, self-becoming, or, you know what I mean? Like,
that's exactly how to describe it.
it's just realizing that you are this.
I think that's an important point, is that Mooji talks about, you use this idea of the seeker to take you so far. And then you gotta let go of the idea. You gotta let go of the idea that you are even a seeker, because you are already that thing. So that search for truth, that search for whatever that you are, is maybe part of your journey if you're listening to this. You take that so far, and then you gotta let go. And that was a similar experience I had with drugs too, was that I knew at some point it was helping me on a conscious level. But then somebody close to me told me, I'm gonna have to let that shit. If you want to get to that next level, that thing that's taking you to that place, you are gonna have to let go of eventually. And that had to do with weed and drugs, and I had to do with the idea of that I was even searching for something in the first place, because you are that thing.
Yeah, if you think about God, I don't think about a being that is trying to figure itself out. Like, I don't think of God as looking at itself and trying to figure out its identity. I think it's just busy being God and fucking creating things and enjoying existence. You know what I mean? Like, that's, when I think of God, I don't think about God like unsure of its existence. And so, like, if we're moving towards being closer to God, like, that's my picture. I'm moving closer towards being something that is just existing. It's not trying to figure this shit out. It's not struggling. It's not worrying.
Not differentiating, undifferentiated.
Right. It doesn't need an identity. You know, it's not like, who am I? It's not, God is not asking itself, who am I? You know what I mean?
But this helps.
That's a question you ask on the way.
Right. That's a heavy. That's a direct. You can investigate right away.
Right.
It's super. I mean, whether it's necessary or not, it's super helpful to get right to it.
Right. I think it's just one question and a line of questions that you're going to ask yourself on the way to be. You know what I mean? I don't think it's something that you necessarily fixate on. It's just one step in a million steps that are going to lead you back to being what you are or remembering what you are. You know what I mean? That's the question that helps.
Thing to contemplate, though.
Right. That question just breaks your fixation on your physical body.
Yeah.
Because before you ask yourself that, you already are assuming you know who you are. You think you're a human being, a male. You think you're white or black. You think you're a certain age. You think your name is this. You use your parents. Like, these are the things you associate with, but they're all 3D shit. You know what I mean? So when you get to a point where you're asking yourself, who am I really? That question just helps you get rid of associating your attachment to all of that 3D shit and get into the next. Let's say it's 4D or 5D. So now but you're still even though you're shifting into a 5D existence, I am this consciousness, I am this energy, or whatever you want to call it, that's still an attachment. So now you're not attached to your 3D shit anymore, but now you're attached to your 5D shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can see that point, and I could agree with that. I'm just saying that I think it's fair to emphasize the importance that it could be as a tool, because I think that people can stay.
I think those are helpful for us. I think there are a lot of ways to the truth.
I think it's just.
I think there's a lot of ways to the truth, and I think for at least Adam and I, this was a very important step, but not the step that everybody has to take.
Right. I don't think what I'm saying is I don't think there is any one thing that is super important.
Yeah,
I think the whole path is important. Yeah. Even the small shit that didn't seem significant was important. You realizing that you fucking weren't enjoying your life and you could enjoy it more. If you had asked yourself, who am I before that, I don't think that shit would have mattered.
I agree with that. And I'm not saying that like it's one specific thing is like 100 times 100 and everything else is times 1 or 2, that this is like up on this pedestal. But I'm saying it's like could be a super useful technology.
No, it's useful. It's useful. I'm just saying, so for example, you have a tendency like when you have a new realization that becomes the most amazing shit to you ever, right? But then you're going to have a million more realizations.
Recency bias.
You know what I'm saying? It's just because right now it feels super important. In a month, that's not going to be important anymore. You know what I'm saying? The shit you realized a year ago, it's just not, you know what I mean?
I agree with a lot of
forget
things.
that.
Self-inquiry, though, to me, we'll see recency bias or not.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm not saying
just trust me. You know what I'm saying? I was there too. You know what I'm saying? But what I mean is the path is so long that like the things that happen to you in year 1, they seem super fucking important in year 1. But in year 20, they're not anymore. Yeah. And that's not to say that they're not important at all. They just all become part of this huge, the journey is amazing, right?
And I wasn't referring to like me specifically.
No, I mean in general. I mean spirituality. I think everybody goes through a thing where they're trying to figure out. People, like I said, you go through this unpacking thing where you're like, okay, I'm not my body. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my gender. I'm not a human being. You go through these things where you're like unpacking all this shit. I'm not a security guard. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going through all this shit that you're not trying to, and you get back to this awareness. You say, okay, I'm the awareness, right?
But it also allows you to know that there's no separation, that you are everything.
Right. And then you go through this thing where you start realizing, okay, I got rid of all the shit that I'm not. Now I'm realizing that I am really everything. All that shit that I said I'm not, I am that, plus everything else, right? You get to this thing where you're like, I am everything. There's nothing I am not. I'm everything. And then you progress past that into I'm nothing. I'm not the awareness. I'm not the fucking tree. I'm not the ground. I'm not the air. I'm nothing. I don't have an identity. I'm just watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming there's a level past that. So like right now, that seems like this whole like I am nothing thought for me right now is like, oh my God, that's the secret, that's the key, right? But in a fucking year, I'm probably going to be somewhere else where I am nothing is going to seem trivial. It's going to seem like this really small fucking thing to me where I was like, I didn't understand any of that shit I was talking about. You know what I mean?
You broke that down really well. You broke it. I totally agree with you. I was just making the point of like, it seems to me that a lot of people get stuck in a level, if you call it, of thinking like, oh, I'm the observer and I can see that I don't have to go with these thoughts, and then they just get stuck in a stagnant period because they can't really transcend the ego. And I think that self-inquiry would help just a ton of people. That's just me thinking.
My thing is,
You were keeping on going.
no, my commentary is just a warning on the practice of fixating on anything.
Yeah, and I made
Any
it sound that
question,
way.
even it's a who am I, that's still a technique. You
I
know what I'm saying?
wasn't trying to make it sound like fixating. I was saying it is super useful to like a large.
Right, and I'm just saying everything is useful. Falling down and getting in a car accident was fucking super useful for me in my growth. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's everything is leading you where you're going. You know what I'm saying? There's no one thing that's like more useful.
What about when Mark's bringing up about the experience that which could walk you into of
Right, that's dope.
yourself. But I'm saying that those experiences hold a higher weight.
I don't think they do though.
I'm not saying me personally. I'm saying that if you were to, so if there was a group of people that were trying to advance or grow more,
Right.
I think that introducing these things could be super beneficial.
No, they're beneficial. I just don't think they're
More
more
than other
beneficial than anything. Everything is beneficial.
I agree with that, but I'm
You know what I'm
saying these are.
But that's what I'm saying. You're giving this thing more weight than these other things. But that's not how it works. Like it's literally everything that happens to you in your entire life from the moment you're born, it's helping. Everything is leading you to where you got here. If you didn't do the one thing in that series of things, you wouldn't be the Adam you are right now.
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that.
And that wasn't things you consciously did. It wasn't like it was more important for me to realize who I am than it was important for me to overeat when I was 7. That's not it. All of that shit is important. You understand what I'm saying? It's all equally important. And it's all leading you to where you're supposed to be at. And there's no point in you. The mistake that I think most people make in regard to spirituality is fixating on a practice. They say this technique is going to get you where I'm going, or this thing, or this. They get to these different milestones and they fixate on them and they say that's the thing that's going to take you. And it's like, no, that's not what's going to take you. Grace is going to take you. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Like you're going to go where you're going to go no matter what.
I was just saying that introducing this thing could be super.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Super helpful.
I'm saying acknowledging the importance of something is different than saying that it's more important than something else. Because that's comparative. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just important. You know what I'm saying? But it's just as important as all this other shit that we've been doing. You know what I
I
mean?
would say that for me, this step has been hugely important. But other hugely important things were quitting drugs or figuring out that I had a split ego that I had to put back together before I had the concept of letting go. And I know that while this recency bias does seem very important, I know that there are other places that I can only read about that I'm going to have to get to an important milestone in these places too, and being like, whoa.
Yeah, the rest of your existence is going to be whoa. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in this series of like, this is so fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
Oh, I think what we're saying is that check out Muji because
That's what I was
have
gonna
it be your own experience. Do these guided meditations. Don't take our word for it or our conjecture. Try it out yourself. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. You know.
right. And my commentary on that is like, if it works, keep going.
Yeah.
Like, don't stop at the thing that works. Like, don't say this works. I'm gonna do this. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, keep going to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing that works. And the next thing that works.
It's not a inconvenience. You're gonna find in the beginning. It seems like a routine, a practice. Like I gotta set aside 15 minutes a night, but gradually it becomes like, man, I can't wait to get to do this.
Right.
Because it's but to have something to compare that to know that it's that way, to get excited for it. It's hard if you haven't experienced it. It's hard to explain.
And that's why Muji's so important, is because he gives you the experience.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying
You
to
get
say.
to feel it.
Yeah. But not fixate.
But see, what I'm saying is, don't fixate on how you got the experience, right? Like, get the experience, recognize like the steps you followed or whatever, but realize that it's still that's still a technique. The ultimate where you're trying to get to is where you don't have a technique anymore. You don't need to sit down and think I'm going to do this thing. You don't need to ask yourself a question. You don't need to sit down and cross your legs and meditate. You just are existing. Like, that's where you want to get to. At least that's what I'm trying to get to, is where I walk around all day and my entire existence is that state that we're talking about right now, where you're trying to sit down and get to this action of these questions and have these realizations and end up in these states where you're connected. I want to be that all the time with no tricks. You know what I mean? I don't want to need to do a backflip to get into that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just be there all the time.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the progression of that, or the gradual build. I mean, like how you're mentioning, keep going. You're keeping on going.
Yeah, just keep. I just want to tell people to keep going.
But it's not like when you're saying to keep going, like we were just talking about. It's not that like, oh, you're gonna have to keep on going. Like you're trying to like motivate them. No, you're gonna become so self-motivated to do it. It's like, what else can you get passionate about doing? Like this is, but to get to there, to get that momentum, to think of it that way is really an important thing, I think.
And I think the warning is not to land.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like there are people who landed at like meditation, and then they just stayed at meditation. You know what I mean? Like don't land, don't get stagnant, don't reach a plateau and just sit there. Like stay there for however long it takes. But the idea is to keep moving forward. Like fixate this very far goal in your mind. You know that you want to become a conscious participant in your connection to God. Set that as your goal, right? And then you keep moving in that direction nonstop. Like just keep going. Cause I see it every day. I see somebody who was around Yogananda when they were 20 or something. You know, they walked with Yogananda, did all this shit. Now they're 55 and they're still where they were when they were 20. And I'm like, that's not how we're supposed to be doing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's just there's more for you. Like I know it. We only been at this for freaking what? Well, you were. I like this in this mode. This like
since February.
Maybe 3 years. Okay. Maybe 3 years where I've been like meditating and doing all this. I wasn't before. When I had my awakening experience in 2013, I didn't start meditating. That wasn't because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know, I didn't have any context. I had this experience and then I just started receiving a stream of consciousness, and then I just started talking to people. But I wasn't like meditating. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just moving. You know what I'm saying? The last 3 years, I'll say like I've been consciously like, oh, I know exactly where I'm going. I know what I'm doing and moving in this direction. So I've had like a clear direction for the last 3 years, right? But the growth has been like exponential. It's been like light speed. You know what I mean? Every other month there's this new fucking milestone. I'm like, oh my God, like, that's new. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, like, I thought about it this way. Now I'm thinking about it this way. Now I'm here. Like, and I can see the progress, right? It's just, but I think it's because we aren't allowing ourselves to stick to any one school of thought or any one concept or any one guru or any of that shit. We're just moving. And when we were talking to the monk, we went to the lake shrine. We were talking to my friend Marty, Brahmachari Martin. He was saying that like he led a prayer at a youth gathering, and then one of the girls that was there, like one of the female youth leaders, she did an exercise, like an I am type exercise that like blew his mind, like how she helped everybody experience this I am state or whatever. He's like, yeah, the kids like they're thinking so much differently, like thinking about this thing way differently than we are. And I'm like, yeah, like we're not supposed to do it the way they did. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the way we're doing it is completely. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have.
Their conditioning was way different.
Right.
It seems that it was like this guru disciple, or just putting in 5-10 years of this time and this whole idea of a process that it took. Whereas now being open to whatever guides you and like not being so set in a certain way allows possibilities to happen when they do.
And plus, they didn't have access. We had access to everybody's guru. I can go read a book about anybody's guru, right? I can go like
you don't sign up to go to some retreat.
Right. I don't have to just find the one guy and like learn from that one guy. I can learn from every guy, every woman, and every random person with a fucking cell phone can upload a video and I can go watch that shit on YouTube. You don't have to be famous, right? Like, so I got access. We have access to like a vast amount of information compared to like the people back then in the 20s or whatever. They needed to go find the guy. There were still some books and shit, but like you still had to get a hold of a book. I can literally go on my phone and get like every book that was ever written, like on my phone, find all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, so we get to take pieces from everybody's like school thought.
I think this is what Muji was talking about and Adam was talking about earlier, is that the time for newness and the time for us is now. There's a time now for people that are searching for this to be a real guiding light by taking the time and effort to figure out some things that work for them, speaking about how they went about it, and having and telling the story, and having other people connect to that as well. Because the shit that people are doing, the Yoganandas, the people that are monks, there's been a shift in consciousness that I really believe in. These kids that just intuitively know that they want to be vegans, that they want to be more kind to the earth. Something's going on, and for me, what I want to be in my highest level is to be of service to this shifting, being this middle ground between where we are, which we can all agree, maybe we're not such great stewards of the earth. We don't really treat our neighbors with love. You know, we don't really act in a loving way to very many people. So for me, the time is now to be this godlike person in myself, to not just intellectualize it, not just talk about it, but to be that light and to help be that transition to where these kids at. I see with my niece, she's like 3 years old, and she's like on some next level shit at 3. You know, I don't know where I was at 3, but I don't think I was this. So.
Yeah.
Well, we have the opportunity with this new wave of beings, the new wave, and we have the opportunity at our fingertips to explore. It is our chance to explore and evolve in an infinite way and see what happens. Like, there were sages and gurus that in past history have come to light in these far advanced, but having the opportunity to explore and in a new wave of beings, what else is more motivating? I mean, we have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think we're at the forefront of a systemless system, or we don't have a specific lineage we need to adhere to, or a specific school of thought we need to adhere to. We're going into a formlessness where we basically have integrated everything. Where it's not okay, either you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Christian
Eastern
or Eastern or Western, or we're just getting into this place where we're taking what works, and what doesn't work we're discarding, but we're not discarding something just because of its label. We're not saying, okay, I'm not going to practice that because it comes from this place, or it's by this school of thought, or this person said it, or whatever. We're taking whatever works, whatever resonates from all of the systems,
kind of evaluating on its own merits.
Yeah, and then we're just making this new thing where we don't have an identity or name for it.
That's exciting. I mean, because that's how else do you want to do it? You know,
Right.
if you could look back and okay, well, I evaluated on its own merits. I gave it its as much as you could without preconceived notions, and let's see what happens.
Right, we're not dismissing anything.
Exactly.
I think which was cool. We're just literally looking at things and we're saying, okay, if this person wrote 100 pages and I only think there's fucking 20 pages of it that makes sense, I'm taking that 20 pages from this and that 10 pages from this book and that 5 pages from that book, and we're making this new shit. And we're not even going to call it anything. We're just, you know what I mean? We're just going to do the work.
Man? That's powerful.
I think even with, you look at Yogananda, the Self-Realization Fellowship organization, they were the earlier iteration of that. They were saying, okay, we can look at all the major 5 religions or whatever, and all of them were speaking the same thing. We're going to take a little bit from all this stuff, and they were all, they're universal law and universal concepts that are across the board, and all these things that we're going to believe in, all this stuff. But they still put it in a box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Focusing mainly on meditation being important, but kind of directing all the experience on that. Really,
they're still saying you need to do this, you need to do it this way, you need to do
or
this.
you need to be advanced Kriya yoga.
You need to have they're still saying that this is the way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's how it works.
Even though they kind of started to, they kind of shifted it because the school of all religions giving importance and, like you said, direction of all these religions going to the same place. But even still, in the end, kind of boxing it in.
Yeah, you
Whereas
still box.
this is
This
wow,
is
this
no
is-
box. And do what works. Like that's, you know what I'm
And
saying?
I can't even comment on it. That's what else do you want? And like,
You know.
Yeah, and that's to that point. All this shit. I don't tell anybody how they should do their own work. I'm just explaining what I have done in an authentic manner to get me to where I'm at and how I'm going to go. But I don't think that me doing these things, if you do the same thing, exact same thing that I did, will get you to the same understanding and the same awareness. I think it's such a personal journey, and that's why you need all of these different things. You figure it out. You test it out yourself. Be your own life scientist. You know, figure out, do these things work for me? Maybe I don't need that step or whatever. Figure out on your own level and just watch it grow. And I'm going to tell you from experience that it's possible.
Right.
It's possible to take your life from wherever you have it in this level of suffering to not suffering. There are steps. You can do that, and you can do that in this lifetime. And I think that's one of the amazing things about this age, this turning of the age into the age of Aquarius. People believe in that.
I like how you explain, because you do it well with suffering, because we get it, but the way you explain it, so that it gives a connotation of like, oh, I'm not suffering, but the way you explain it is like a good thing for you.
It's just not knowing. You don't even know that you're not happy. Most people don't even know what we think of as suffering is like these excruciating like instances where we like really hurt badly. This is
Sharp pain,
right,
like
this is
somebody
intense,
died, like we're
undeniable shit. But what we don't realize is suffering. There's degrees of suffering. You know what I mean?
Obsessive thinking is the large.
You know, there's all types of suffering.
Yeah.
And so we don't even realize, because it's not excruciating, it's not blaring, that it is suffering.
And actually, it's probably a large degree, even if it's not blaring.
It's one of those things where the pain is so consistent that it gets dull, and you don't even realize you're still feeling it anymore until you're not feeling it. When you're not feeling it, then you realize that you were. You realize it was there. You know what I mean? If you have a bad knee your entire
That's exactly
life,
what happened. I had surgery in January, and I had this every day. I'd wake up and go to work, and I'd have this like uncomfort feeling that's like nagging the whole day. Got surgery. 2 months later, it's completely healed. I'm like, oh my god, I don't think about it all the entire day. Whereas if the weather was a certain way, or just being tight all day, it was such an inconvenience. It took so much energy to be that way, but to not have that, I can't describe how much. And that's a comparison. That's not even. It doesn't even do justice to the other suffering. Of mine.
Right. So I'm saying there's a level where so first you can get to a place where you don't have suffering anymore. And then there's a level past that where you have joy in place of it. And so like it's important for you to realize that in the beginning, you don't even realize that you haven't reached the place of not suffering yet. You're in a state of constant suffering. And then what you identify as happiness is just suffering less than.
Right. And then there's joy by
Right.
not.
There's these little spikes in there where you feel great, but your general existence is suffering. You know what I'm saying? And then you can eventually get to a place where you don't suffer, and then you get to another place where it's constant bliss. Like, that's the goal. That's where we're going. So, like, when I talk to people all the time, it's like, I'm not telling you your life sucks. I'm just telling you there's more for you.
Because I just brought that up is because I think for a lot, the connotation of just people hearing the word suffering, it's like,
It seems so drastic.
Drastic, and it's attacking. It's like, I'm not suffering. Like, it just doesn't. It almost loses people because it's.
Yeah, so I don't say, yo, you know,
stop.
You're not happy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't walk up and say, you think you're happy, but you're not happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't walk up and, what I say is, there's a higher level of happiness for you. You know what I'm saying? What you're experiencing could be happiness. It's just on the scale of happiness. Yeah. I'm saying this, what you think of as, you think the scale is this, and what you really have access to is this. Yeah. You've been living in this box that you think this is the height of happiness. And I'm saying it's much larger.
To a lot of people that challenges them, I feel like at least I would have thought of that way. It's just like, what do you mean I'm happy? Like, you're trying to tell me.
It becomes your normal. Like when I was doing drugs, smoking weed, I was high. I mean, I felt great when I was high. It's so much fun. And then it would just be normal. And really normal is suffering. Really why do I need to smoke weed in the first place? It's because I was suffering so much that I needed this release valve from myself. And that's where the ego comes in. You know, we're talking about the ego. The ego is here to protect you from this suffering. It's here as a way to assist you for a way, and it's been there to help you out for so long. And that's why it's holding on so hard when you're trying to transcend that.
Right, it knows how important the job is. Like, if you didn't have ego before you had an awakening, you would probably kill yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the ego is the source of your self-esteem. Like, it's telling you all the shit about you that's good. And it's not just telling you all the fucked up stuff, it's also telling you the shit about you that you like. You know what I mean? It's also saying you're a fucking great football player. It's also saying you're a manly man. It's absolutely saying you're attractive or you're smart. That's ego. All that shit is ego too. It's boosting, it's supporting you. Like, it's keeping you afloat, but it's not pushing you over into bliss. It's just helping you not die.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not there to help you transcend. It's just there to keep you afloat. You got to do the work to get to the next part. And so, like, that's what happens when you have an awakening and you start to transcend your ego. You're like, okay, like, I've just existed. I've just been surviving for fucking however long. You know what I mean? Now I want to thrive. Like, now I want to fucking enjoy this existence. And if you don't feel like, if you're listening and you don't feel like you're absolutely enjoying every second of your life, I'm telling you, it's possible. It's possible to enjoy all of it, even the unfortunate shit, even the unfortunate events, unfortunate circumstances. It's possible to enjoy them, not on some masochistic, crazy shit where you like pain, but it's possible to appreciate it, to really be in the midst of your fuckery and still appreciate it for what it is. You know, I'm not saying no more rainstorm. I'm just saying you get to appreciate the fucking rainstorm. You would rather be driving while you're in that shit. You get to look at the fucking thunder and look at the lightning and look at all this shit and say, this is fucking unbelievable. That's a beautiful place to be. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for me, the first step and really all this understanding was getting into meditation in the first place and being able to just observe my thoughts. And what I saw was that my internal dialogue was negative. I didn't even realize, because your suffering becomes so normalized, that until I started focusing my attention on what my actual thoughts were, only then did I realize that shit was negative self-talk all the time.
And really the quality of your thoughts.
Oh my God.
I've been in my head like plenty. I've been like, my brain's saying all this shit, and I really don't know what about this, what if this happens. I've been like paying attention to like my thoughts, but I wasn't paying attention to the quality of my thoughts. Like, once you really start looking at the quality of it, you're like, oh, like, my thoughts are all speaking from a place of lack, a place of like fear. It's never anything positive.
Yeah, right.
It's never speaking prosperity or abundance. It's never speaking courage.
Both sides of the conversation, just trying to find a place to rest.
Right. It's always speaking from fear. It's always like, we don't have enough, or what if we get hurt, or what if
never content.
It's supposed to. What's crazy is realizing we needed it. We needed to do that. We needed it to say, hey, you could get fucked up if you run across the street right now. But that's a worthwhile thought. When I'm about to cross the street, it's worthwhile for my brain to say, look both ways. You need to look both ways because you can get fucked up. The problem is when that becomes the only voice. When that's the only thing we're listening to is just that. Yeah. When we're not quieting ourselves to listen to the other voice, that's like, you can fucking fly, you can make $1 million tomorrow, you can fucking cure yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, we never speak, because that voice is quiet. The ego voice is like loud as fuck. It's like, it needs to get your attention like immediately. It's like, I need to fucking tell you about that fucking hot stove over there. Like, don't touch the stove. You know what I mean? The other voice is very quiet because it knows it has all the time in the world. And it knows that this shit's not forever. This is temporary. And there's no urgent anything. You know what I'm saying? So it's not yelling at you.
I had a big realization about a year ago. I was at some, baller party in the hills, high on Molly, smoking weed, and I'm walking around and I'm thinking that I'm having a good time. I thought that, I must have, and then I had to really look at my thought. I realized I had a frown on my face. Literally a frown. I'm high as fuck. Frown on my face. Really had to think about it and realize I didn't even know how to have fun. And that's where my suffering came from. I should, objectively, you look at this experience and be like, this is a good time.
Right.
This person is having a good time. Everyone's having a good time. And what I realized was I was such in suffering that I didn't even know how to have fun. And it's taken me a year to try to understand what suffering was from this point. Realize I had being authentic with myself that I am suffering. Because what you're saying, most people, and your ego is going to tell you it doesn't exist. Most people aren't going to admit it. And that they're suffering. That's your ego that's telling you these things. But just be authentic with it. Be authentic with your feelings. And I said meditation was big. Journaling was big for me too. Like getting your thoughts onto a piece of paper is such a powerful modality. You can look at your actual thoughts that you don't think you're thinking in your head. And sometimes when I look at them, there's some dark shit in it. And I would just look at it, and I would easily want to get rid of that thought and just be like, man, I'm so ridiculous. That's such a ridiculous thought. And those two modalities for me have been so huge in getting to this point we were talking about earlier, of getting to the point of, oh, now I want to, because it wasn't a shift that goes by on a daily basis. It takes some work in between these stages of understanding. Those two things were huge for me in figuring out my split ego, putting it together, getting off drugs, now getting me to this state of awareness, which is now where I consider the beginning of ego death. Ego transcendence.
Well, and the question, the way, once I realized that about happiness, the way I would illustrate it to other people I would ask them, what's your most prevalent emotion? What's your most prevalent emotional state every day? I would say, like, if you had to think about yourself every day, throughout your day, what emotional state are you most commonly in? And it's never anything positive.
No.
It's anytime I ask somebody that, it's fucking anxiety or apathy, where they're just mad, they're not up, they're just fucking okay. It's never anything great. It's always fucking negative.
That's why, like, everything is looking forward to the weekend, a Friday, a Saturday. Well, what about every other day, whatever the hour of the day?
That's what I'm like. So if out of your 24 hours, you know what I mean? What's your most prevalent normal state of existence? And it was never anything positive. And I think that's what I mean. Those are positive things. Peaceful, happy, content, right?
Even-mindedness.
That's not even peaceful and content, or not even fucking. That's not having a fucking party. That's not you jumping off the walls. That's just you being okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when I ask people that, and then they start identifying their emotional state, and I'm like, none of that shit is great. Yeah. Then it's like you kind of realize it. You're just like, oh, like I'm not having a fucking good time. You know what I'm saying?
Like, your point is, like, you're so conditioned, you're so used to those states that you don't think that that's a problem.
You're having good moments.
I think you're just having better moments than the shittiest.
Right, you know what I mean? And so, like,
and for me, those were mood altering with substances.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm having a good moment because I'm smoking some weed.
Like, and so,
that's a mess guy.
And then realizing that, like, once you come out of that moment, you're gonna return back to that fucking whatever that shit was that you identified as, that's your norm. That's where you're going back to every time.
You know, state of neutral. You call
it. I call it. So that's why I started saying shifting. Like I learned how to shift my neutral. My neutral shifted from there to peaceful and content. Even if that's just one step up from fucking, you know what I'm saying, apathetic and anxious. You know what I'm saying? Even if that's just one step up, that means wherever I go on the scale now, I always return back to peaceful and content. If you can just get to that, that will make you realize how much you weren't enjoying your life before that.
I think that's a good.
It stabilizes it.
If you stabilize your emotional state, and you're like, oh, like I wasn't.
I think that's such a good point that I didn't realize I even had anxiety or depression in the first place.
And at
Yeah,
first,
I
it's
just thought that was me. That was just normal, and that the relief was doing drugs,
Or having sex,
or having sex,
or whatever.
gambling, shopping, whatever, any sort of addiction, food altering is. And only then did I realize, oh shit, man, I have this thing, but it's not even me. So how do I get rid of that? And it was just a practice for me. And but the first thing is awareness that it's even there.
You don't even know. I didn't know. I didn't know it until I got. And this again, the shit I'm saying is things that the universe it gave me. Like I intuitively walked into being okay. Just my natural progression from surrendering in 2013 to the stream of consciousness walked me into that, right? But once I realized I was there, then I was like, okay, how the fuck did I get here? That's when I started doing all the studying and reading and all that shit. It was like now, and I think that's what Muji does. It's like, okay, let me help you experience this shit, and now you can figure it out. But like, let me give you the feeling first. Like, let me get you there, and then you can go backwards and like reverse engineer this shit and figure out how to be there. But like, let me give you a taste of it.
Because otherwise, it's just like you said about meditating, where you're just like
you don't know where you're going.
And it's the same way. And that's the same way that you're trying to figure the other stuff out.
Right. It's the same shit. You're just walking without a direction,
But
which is still good. It's still good. You know what I mean?
It's never gonna not help you.
Move your feet. I tell people a lot, move your feet. Like fuck, even if you don't have it all figured out, move your feet first. Like just start moving. You know what I mean?
I think that's an important point because this process is not a step-by-step process. It's more like you're putting the pieces together and they don't have to be in step-by-step order. You don't have to do step 1 before you get to step 2. It's just doing a lot of different steps, moving your feet, and putting those pieces together however they come about in your life.
Figure it out as you go.
You figure it out as you go. And for me, thank God, because I'm so bad at like step-by-step like tests and shit like that. That was not the way I learned. This way of learning, that I know this, brings me so much ease in the experience that I don't have to do it sequentially.
Right. It's intuitive. It's just I think we're meant to be intuitive beings. Like we've accepted so much responsibility on ourselves for how our lives turn out. And it's just not how that shit's supposed to work. Like we're supposed to be responsible for our emotional state, how we feel. Are we enjoying ourselves? Like that's what we should be trying to like grab a hold of and like feel okay. But everything else, we need to take our hands off the wheel and just do our fucking best and let the universe conspire to make it what it is. We don't need to make it anything. Like we just need to keep moving. Like that's it. And I think that's where we should end this shit though.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah, that's good.
So Sundays, man. Sundays at 2 p.m. Going forward, that's when you can catch us. We'll be having more of these talks, and hopefully we'll have some more people in the building to add to the discussion, man. All right, till next time.